Hello, good evening. My name is Daniel Britton, and thank you ever so much for having me for this dyslexia talk. It really does mean a lot to me to be able to interact with people like yourselves that are doing the absolute utmost to raise awareness for this condition in Brazil. It's just fantastic. And I just want to talk to you about why I'm here, I guess, or why I've been asked to be here. I created a typeface when I was at university that recreates the feeling of reading with dyslexia. And I done that because it was born out of frustration and a lack of understanding that people seem to have with what they perceived dyslexia was. Growing up, I was diagnosed young with dyslexia. I was diagnosed, I think, aged 6 years old, but they gave a wrong diagnosis in the fact that they assessed that I was only half dyslexic, which when you're in the 90s, that meant your child is half stupid, half capable. That's the divide that happened there. Dyslexia was still not fully understood or appreciated in the early 90s, and I had a lot of trying and difficult times with that in education. So yeah, growing up, I had to struggle, to really struggle, and I wanted to do my best to make sure the next generation of children that are going through education, whether it be in England or whether it be in Scotland or whether it be in Brazil, that they wouldn't have to struggle as hard as I did and my other classmates did and the people who went before me did. So at university, I created a typeface that recreates the feeling of reading with dyslexia to gain empathy for the condition. I believe that once you've sort of put people in your shoes, as we would say in England, so once you've gained empathy for a subject or a condition, and the other person is able to emotionally understand how it is that you're feeling and how you're struggling, once that struggle has been understood and registered on a level beyond text, then you can start solving a problem. So I created a typeface that slows down the reading time of a non-dyslexic to the speed of a dyslexic person. And what that does is it gives that non-dyslexic person the frustration and the embarrassment of reading everyday text by slowing their reading pace down so much so that it becomes absolutely intolerable to do any mundane task. And once they felt that frustration, and it was an immediate frustration that they gained, once that was onboarded emotionally and they were fired up, and they, threw the piece of paper that I gave them away, and they told me, this is completely ridiculous. I can't read this. This is gibberish. This piece of paper means nothing. You're wasting my time. And then after they would tell you this, then the penny would drop, and they go, oh, this is how you read. This is what it feels like to be you. And you would say, yes, this is my everyday. Then they would take you more seriously. Because a lot of the time before that, it was a bit of a gamble who you spoke to about your dyslexia. Some of your tutors would understand the condition and give you the most sympathy and work harder with you to help you out. And you had that, and that was fantastic. Other tutors treated you as you were stupid because they themselves didn't understand the condition. Now, I'm not blaming the tutors here. It's not their fault. Everybody is a product of their time. You can't go and demand a tutor of the 90s or the 80s and demand them and condemn them by standards of 2020. That's completely preposterous. It happens, we have to work with it. But what we can do is focus on creating a much, much better environment for the younger children of today that are going through education. And we can do our best together, piece by piece, to further their education step by step, little by little, penny by penny. Because little differences will accrue interest over time and make a much, much, much larger interest at the end. Yeah, that was pretty much my experience of why I created the typeface. And dyslexia is a lot of doom and gloom when you're in school, and there's no escaping that. That's just how it is. But I was lucky enough to have a tutor who picked up my dyslexia when I was about 17. So I went through school in every single exam, failing and failing and failing and failing. And I got to my GCSEs, which are the examinations you take when you're 15 in England. And they determine your A-levels, which is the next set for when you are 17 and 18. And I failed the GCSEs, which are essential to go on to your A-levels. But because the tutors knew me and they knew that I tried hard, they let me back in and they let me re-examine my core subjects, my maths and my English, because I failed all those spectacularly. And they allowed me to take up art and design. There I met my tutor, Geraldine Young, and she was a young tutor at the time, and she recognised immediately that I was severely dyslexic and I needed extra help professionally. So within months of me being one of her students, she put in, I can't tell you how many hours of overtime specifically in me to make sure I had the correct help I needed to get me over the line to then go through to university. Without that tutor, bending over backwards, working all ungodly hours, unpaid, I simply wouldn't be here talking to you today. I really, really wouldn't. It is so, so, so important that children of ages whatever, between 6 to 66, have the help they need just to push them along a little bit more. It means everything. So I really do owe my career to my tutor Geraldine. She was able to give me the help that I needed, and she gave me the support that I needed, and then I was able to go to a university called the London College of Communication, which is a part of the University of the Arts London. Now, this doesn't mean anything to you, I'm absolutely sure, and neither should it. But without trying to sound egotistical, because I know you won't understand these names I've just given you, the University of the Arts London, in art and design terms, is rated above Oxford and above Cambridge and above MIT and above Yale and above whatever. It is the #1 university in the world for art and design. And her support was able to get me into that college and that university. And I was then able to thrive when I was at university, because the learning environment changed dramatically. And then all of a sudden, things became more on my terms. And I was able to just progress leaps and bounds, because I then found other students who are also dyslexic. And the facilities for teaching dyslexic children were much, much, much better at universities. Now, I know that Brazil isn't quite like England. I haven't been, so I also couldn't tell you what your country's like. But at university, you have the chance, if Brazil isn't the place that you want your child to study, or isn't where you would like to study, university is the time where you get to go to another country. So you can go to America and receive their help. You can come to England, you can come to France, you can go to Australia, you go to wherever you want to and hone your craft precisely. But without the support in the primary years leading up to that, you won't get there. So we need to together make sure that we can support children through their education as best as we can, for enable to them to be able to flourish and then create whatever it is, or make or trade whatever it is they want to trade. I myself have been very, very, very lucky. After going to university, I was able to work for an absolutely first-rate design studio in London, which then led on to another first-rate design studio in Croatia, where I was lucky enough to meet my girlfriend, which was fantastic. And now I'm working back in London again, another first-rate studio. But you see what I'm getting at here. Like there's a domino effect of success. If you manage to get in at the right time, then things become a lot easier for you. If I didn't have my tutor Geraldine when I was younger, it wouldn't have happened. It simply wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in art and design. I would be laying bricks somewhere, or I would be fixing somebody's plumbing, or I would be cutting somebody's grass. It's as simple as that. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those professions, and those professions are essential, and they're fantastic. If you're happy doing them, brilliant. But what the problem is that I find is that in doing those professions, it's great to do them out of choice, not out of necessity. If you don't want to lay bricks for the rest of your life, you will resent your profession and in turn yourself, and you can become quite bitter in that way and unfulfilled. I know that because I tried all of those professions when I was younger. I turned my hand to everything. I wanted to see what the working world was like at a very, very young age. I delivered papers, I've washed cars, I've sold furniture, I've sold computers, I've worked in nightclubs, I've fixed plumbing, I've done everything. I've done everything there is that you can charge for. And I was never happy. But now I'm truly happy at what I'm doing, and I would love to be able to help somebody else in another part of the world reach that level of personal satisfaction with themselves and their career. And it's the once you've achieved that, that's the best thing ever. I think I often work 18 hours a day. That's not completely uncommon. Sometimes 16. But around those sort of working hours, I'll always finish work at between 12 to 2 o'clock in the morning. But I never feel like I've worked an 18-hour day. I'm always happy. I'm always happy, sat at this desk, looking at this screen, looking out of this window. It's fine. It's exactly what I want to be doing. And my career has got to a place now, after a long time of struggling and working things out, where it's starting to pay dividends. And yeah, it's time that people like myself, who have reached a comfortable level of security, give back a little bit more to whoever reaches out and asks for it, I guess. So yeah, that's in a long-winded way, that's what I'm here for, and that's, I guess, what we're all here for. Yeah. So again, thank you all so much for being here and listening to me for so long. It's really it's heartwarming to have somebody care so much about other people's education, and again, it's really fantastic. Now, it sounds like that I've just given a lot of doom and gloom about what dyslexia is, and it's woe is this and woe is that, and how sad it is to be dyslexic, and and it's tough, because once you've passed school, you then have to go to university, and university also isn't a breeze. It's really not. But what you're able to do at university is get the correct help on a one-to-one basis, which means everything. That's the difference. But anyway, no, university is tough. It's all tough, and work, as you know, is very, very, very tough. And with work comes the office politics. With work comes God knows what an office brings, and again, dyslexia there, it's really, really tough. But what dyslexia enables you to do is to think in a way that others simply cannot. I will always spell people's names wrong. I will get emails wrong all the time. There's spelling corrections everywhere. But I've got to a level now where my spelling correction and my nonsensical grammar is just a part and parcel of my everyday. And people around me have accepted that, which makes it makes my job a lot easier when other people know to expect a very badly worded email or badly spelt email. It releases the pressure off, and I can focus on dedicating the time to creating nice brand identities or advertising campaigns or whatever it is, because I see within myself a difference between the colleagues that I work with now, or the colleagues that I worked with before, or the designs that I produce. I'm able to see a distinction between what I'm doing and what other people are doing, and I believe a lot of that is to do with the dyslexia. The creative side of your brain is so much larger, and it's wildly different to the non-dyslexic brain, and it needs to be harnessed in a way that makes it very profitable. And that's the absolute best thing with dyslexia. I personally would never dream of being a normal person. I wouldn't do it. There's so many advantages to being dyslexic, and I think that also growing up, having to face adversity for so long. And it was a long time. All the bullying and the name calling in school, and the failures, and the nights you go home crying because you can't do the work, and that you've got an exam the next day that you're going to fail, and you can't sleep, and you're downtrodden. All of that experience, gives you a much tougher skin, and it certainly gives you, if nothing, a quick wit and a good sense of humor about yourself. So when you go into the workplace, again, you're differentiated not only in your work that you produce, but in your physical personality. You can have a joke with everybody a bit more, and you can become a bit more wily. You can become a completely different person, which sets you apart from everybody else, and which, more importantly, it gets you remembered. Now, this might not mean anything to you right now, because you might not be at that stage where that means something to you, but I can tell you wholeheartedly, when you're in business and you need to get people to remember who you are, having a joke at your own expense in a pub can be the thing that gets you remembered to a client over everybody else. Just that one thing. That one little word that you said, that one little quick funny liner, whatever it is, that can be the difference between making some money for a few months or not. So what I'm saying is all of this eventually will get bundled together, and it will create your portfolio, it will create your makeup, it will create you. All of your experiences create and define who you are in a way or another. And what I'm saying to you is work with it. It's a great experience. It's hard. It's much harder than anybody else will ever go through. Don't ever mistake that. Dyslexia is never an easy ride. And it's not, and if you're a parent, or if you're a tutor, or if you are the person that's listening to this with dyslexia, do not give yourself the excuse to not work because you are dyslexic. That is the one thing that I wish that somebody gave to me when I was younger. I'll impart the one bit of wisdom that I want you to take away from this. The 20 odd minutes that you've listened to, you can probably forget. It's fine. But this is the most important thing that I want you to remember. And that is, dyslexia is never an excuse to not try harder. Dyslexia is the excuse to work your arse off again and again and again and again. It's no excuse. You have to work. My personal experience, I went through school and people understood that I was dyslexic to a degree, as I said to you before. But what happened was, when you're at school, you're able to become a bit funny with the tutors. You can let your personality shine through a bit more. You can be a bit more likable. Your personality can put you places in education that your grades don't. And tutors respond to that. So if you're a bit more lovable, or if you're a funny kid, people will give you a second chance. Going through school, you can do that. Secondary school, you can do that. University, yeah, sure, you have things to blame. And I used my dyslexia as an excuse. I handed work in late, I was downgraded, I was able to persuade the tutor to not take the marks off, I was able to do this, able to do that. Manipulation is potentially what I'm coming at here. You can become a little bit manipulative if you have the condition, because you know how to work the system. What happens is, once you've finished education and you've used all of your excuses and you've played all the tricks and you've got out with doing the work to a degree, and you've been able to get the sympathy that you need, fine, you've done it. Well, when you come to work, those excuses don't wash at all. You either can do the work or you can't do the work. You're either employed or you're not employed. That's it. There is no in-between ground there. And I was unemployed when I left university for a good year and a half, 2 years. I couldn't get in. My portfolio, when I left university, it was lovely, it was experimental, it had everything that you would want to do at university, I guess. It was great, but it wasn't a professional standard, and I didn't get a job anywhere, absolutely anywhere. And so what I had to do was I had to work out where I went wrong, to go back and redo all of my portfolio again. And I was still living at my parents' house. That was difficult, especially when you're 22, 23 years old. That's not the place you want to be. That gives you more frustration, etc., etc., etc. No money, all of your friends are going out to the city. That gives you more frustration, again and again and again. Your friends are getting pay rises and promotions and going to Paris. You're not, you're still at home. All of this comes when you don't try your absolute utmost when you're in education. Now, again, 2 years is an enormous amount of time when you're unemployed. Time goes painfully slowly. So please, whatever it is you're doing, work harder. And when you've worked harder than the day before, brilliant. Work harder again and again and again, and put in the hours. Keep going. Because if you're at school or university right now, when you go into the quotation marks real world of working, it's brutal. It is absolutely brutal, and excuses don't wash. So if you want to get the job that you want to go and get, and if you want to work for the agency or the studio or wherever it is you want to work at, they won't have an excuse for why you haven't done your work. You need to do it. So work harder. Understand there are an enormous amount of benefits to being dyslexic. A tremendous amount. And again, I would never change it. But just make sure you're putting the hours in. Make sure you're constantly critiquing yourself. And make sure you're always working harder and refining what it is you're doing. And have fun. Because it's great. Always reward yourself with when you've worked a hard week. Make sure Friday, Saturday and Sunday, if you can do it, make sure you're partying, because it's essential. You shouldn't work too much. That's what they invented gin and tonic for. Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. It really, really has. I know I've drummed on for the best part of 25 minutes. So my apologies there. But if you want to speak to me, happy to answer any questions for you. And I know we have an excellent translator here. So yeah, send your messages across, or you can email me afterwards at danielbrittondesign@gmail.com. Send your messages across and we can have a chat. All right, lovely to speak to you. Take care. Bye.